Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I see many people are still struggling with the Plague INC, so yeah, start a new game again. This is on mobile. I don't have the game bought on mobile, and as such, I cannot actually, for say, use genes, which would be a tremendous boost. Pick a random name. As you can see, no genes whatsoever. I do have all of them unlocked for the normal diseases, however, none for the special types. So we will start. And this is either casual or brutal. It's really the same thing. I think I start. We infected China by mistake. Uh, I was meaning to actually infect Saudi Arabia, but I guess we are in a country with a balanced climate and it's an urban country, so we're gonna have a bit of a boost infecting urban countries, which is nice. So now that we start, I saw somebody say the goal is to not be spotted until you get total organ failure. Some other person said, well, that's how I lost because I got total organ failure and I killed people too fast. I beg to differ. The goal is to get spotted. So we're gonna go for rash. It's inevitable. After you reach a certain population amount, you are going to be spotted. The reason you want to have some severity, some symptoms, so on and so forward is quite simple. With those, you can actually get a lot more DNA from popping the red biohazard bubbles, which in turn gives you quite an advantage. So we're going for two things. Most infectious thing is rash, sweating, and the next from that would be skin lesions. We're also going for cysts, not because it's particularly infective, but because it leads to hypersensitivity, which renders rich regions particularly vulnerable. Yeah, it's kind of clear. I've been drinking a bit. So we've infected our second person in China, third person in China, and we should be able to, even though we started in the wrong country, do this rather fast. China sends airplanes to Saudi Arabia, so I'm gonna hopefully base my uh, base my spread on that. Now, we're gonna go for sweating, and next up is actually going to be skin lesions, and that is going to be even before air transmission because China is an interesting place. Both Japan and the USA have balanced climates, and all we really need to capitalize on them would be just drug resistances. However, China has a rather large population, quarter of the world right here, 1.4 1.4 billion. A bit less than India, mind you, but still plenty. At this point in time, China is urban, balanced, and uh, we're just shy of one DNA. But we're gonna be also spreading in cold countries, so I'm thinking we should also consider cold resistance level 1 and 2 and level 1 and 2 bacterial resilience since we started in balanced climate. Festival of Love in China will tremendously boost our infectees. Uh, Festival ended, we started at the normal rate. Pardon me, my tip for that, if you have the DNA and the Festival of Love happens, pick up nausea because it's increasing your infection chance when kissing slightly. So it's a nice thing to do. So love is in the air in China, and round about now at 500 people, we're gonna start to see an interesting increment. So we're 64 infectees per day, and if I check again, we're at 80, and it's gonna just progress by an order of magnitude every single day. Now we got a 51 day, but now we're at 1,000 people infected, and for some reason the infection rate went down. What? Okay, 13, 134. There we go. It's kind of disproportional. If I were to make a statistic out of these days, we're infecting a bunch of people. Not that many, but uh, a sufficient amount, to say the very least. And I picked up wrong button. I picked up drug resistance level 1 for a rather interesting factor. I'm not really trying to do it too fast because I got into China and my airplanes aren't going where I want them to go. I want it to work. I want to do it right, and I want it to work. Like regardless of difficulty, this strategy you can employ in Mega Brutal, and maybe not in China. Saudi Arabia would have been the perfect place to start. But yeah, you're gonna win regardless. Huh. I've never seen that pop up. CDC: 38% of adults in the United States don't walk more than 10 minutes per week. That's a lot of sitting in the house. I walk more than 10 minutes in the house and I live like in a box. So that's something to consider, I guess. Alright, 9 DNA. 9 DNA is actually enough for us to get air level 1. I want to increase our chance to send some airplanes and to have better infectivity in arid countries. As you can see, most of what I'm doing right now is preparing for our overall spread. Since we are at 100k now, uh, the snowball is going to, be a lot faster. When we're gonna reach about 1 million, it's literally going to be an avalanche. We're just gonna infect the entire population of China, and they were gonna spot us regardless if you have symptoms or not. Hmm. Ah, nice sip of beer. We spread to Korea. And as you can see, we got 3 DNA from having severity. You get a lot more from that. So it just makes sense to get the most bang for your buck. Instead of getting 1 DNA per country, I'm getting, twice, maybe 3 times the amount, which is tremendously helpful. As you can see, two infected countries, three infected countries, 2 DNA each, not less, which is really good for us. We have also sent the first airplane, and we are at 3 million people and already infecting about 100k per day. Now, this infection rate is bound to go down at one point or another. We're immediately going to get skin lesions. We hit India. So, with China and India, we have about 3 billion people. Just, 2 billion 800 million, just shy of it. And we need to use that to our advantage, since we're gonna get a lot of DNA from this. We got a symptom for free, which is great, increases our severity and whatnot. That is good. We got into Russia, which is kind of bad since I'm not ready for it. I don't have any cold resistance. I barely have drug resistance level 1. So let's get the level of cold resistance as quickly as possible. We're getting a bit more DNA here. How much would the resilience cost? It's just 8 DNA. We're gonna get this next, just so we can spread in the warmer countries a bit faster, since we're not particularly resistant to any type of to either type of the environment. That's one of the good things you can get. And as you can see, 200 million in China, we're, you know reaching critical point, and China is really good at a cure, as you can see there. But 200 million is only like some percentage of the total. And yeah, we're gonna immediately rush cold resistance level 2, so we have a better chance in the colder countries. And we have almost well, we have almost the entirety of China, uh, which is kind of good, kind of bad. It's a win, not really win situation. Resilience level 2, just to be safe. Next up is going to be maybe drug resistance, but that's 30 DNA. Let's get water level 1 so we get better ship transmission and also a bit better infectivity in the colder countries, which most of them are humid. With 12 DNA right now, let us think what we can do. We can go for insect level 1 just so we spread a bit better in places like India, for say, which, as you can see, we're struggling a bit to get. Our infections went from, 100 something thousand per day, maybe even more at one point, to a mere staggering 554,000. That should not be the case. Huh. Well, like, it should have went down, but I didn't reach the moment we started to snowball in some other places. But yeah, it's actually going quite nicely. I don't know where we're snowballing in, but we're kind of spreading everywhere. And we're spreading everywhere by a mere amount. But at one point, we had like 60K per day, which is not really good. But also, as you can see, our DNA input is going to halt. China already shut down their land borders, which is not good. We need to get everywhere, including Greenland. We got into Egypt, which is cool, I guess. Egypt is a nice place to be in, but I need to infect, several places quite quickly, which is kind of annoying. We're actually doing really well in Russia, surprisingly, which makes me want to get a level of livestock just so I can make sure that I can spread into like Norway. Can I click on it? Norway, and well, Denmark, I guess. I cannot click on it. It's about there, because I want to spread to, well, Greenland, obviously, as I mentioned, Russia and Norway, but Denmark would also assist me in spreading to Iceland via ship, which we shouldn't need if we manage to fully infect Saudi Arabia, as we would be sending, well, airplanes to Iceland. Huge earthquake in France is actually good for us since it damages some of their cure research capacity. They started working on the cure at an accelerated pace, already 2%, 5 years. It's going to only ramp up from there, really. So we got every level of bacteria resilience, which is rather cool. And well, we're basically impregnable and we can survive in all climates. At this point in time, if you would be playing on Mega Brutal, spotted, and at this particular rate, you would rush necrosis. But I'm, a bit more confident than that. I'm gonna get drug resistance, and after that, I'm actually going to get necrosis and become fully lethal. The drug resistance will allow us to spread better, especially in places like New Zealand, Canada, for say. Those are some rather hard places to get into. And because we're kind of in a lot of places, oh, we got it for free. That is amazing. I was just going to evolve it. We have Russia fully infected. Really, what we were waiting for is to get something into Greenland. But we're immediately going to go for pneumonia, actually sneezing as well, just so we can maximize our infectivity and make sure we get a foothold in as many countries as possible. And we're going to go for blood level 1 since we picked up no cold resistance and we don't have natural heat resistance since we started in a country with a balanced climate. At 15 DNA, it's time to actually consider rodent level 1 just so we can get a better footing in places like the USA. Well, we already infected China and whatnot. And we got Greenland. And that should be pretty much everywhere except Caribbean. We need that. Libya, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so the Caribbean is the only country we're missing, which is good. We picked up rodents. We should do just fine in the United States. Okay, let's just go for a level of birds, just so we... Oh, immediate spread to the Caribbeans. I don't know if it was via bird or actually via just, a ship. It looks like an airplane went there, but it does not have an airport. And at this point in time, yeah, we are lethal, not nearly enough. I need 5 more DNA to further increase my lethality. So I can make, I can be sure I'm going to actually, well, kill people in time and slow the cure research by brute force. As we can see, Greenland is getting infected at a nice pace, mainly thanks to sweating and pneumonia, and also cold resistance and bacterial resilience. With this amount of DNA, I'm just going to go for internal hemorrhaging, immune suppression for mutation chance, and I might even risk a level of heat resistance. Let's see how we're doing. Infection spread summary, we're missing Morocco and Bolivia. Also, 26% of the world is still healthy, which is kind of interesting because they're not going to be that way for long. Since we're really struggling in the warm places and we're getting a lot of mutation, feels like I picked up virus. We're just gonna get blood level 2. So, we get a better hold of places like, not necessarily Brazil, but Argentina should be actually poor, shouldn't it be? If I remember correctly. Nope, just rural balanced. It's kind of good because we, are made for balanced. But yeah, at the very least, we're gonna get Africa, Zimbabwe, Botswana, and other interesting places around Africa. And since our infectivity is so high, we're performing tremendously well in places like everywhere as well. Let's get the level of that's actually 28 in DNA. We're gonna get a level of livestock just to make sure we get the other hemisphere. Well, Brazil, freaking cat, and we're gonna get another level of insect. That's cool. Cure was deemed lethal. Just got a bit of time from that. We got into Morocco. Cool. How much is this? 32. How much are you? 15. And sanity is 30. So we're going to get a reshuffle in a moment. And insanity as well. We should get about 50 DNA from all of this. And that's not possibly completely necessary, but it will further increase our score, so fun times. Okay, that went either up or I remembered it wrong. So we got insanity, Coolio, and yeah, as you can see by the cure progress, minimum effort, especially for the country we started. We should have really struggled to do this entire thing thus far, but yeah. Also, our spread was bad. We didn't pick up heat resistance and whatnot, but still, the strategy just works. If I click, oh, the century, very infectious for poor countries, and we just instantly infected the entire West Africa. Cool. Let's get the reshuffle or coma. Let's get coma. That's 34. More complexity. Better all in all. Come on, one right there. We go. Boom, coma. And yeah, about at this point, we're really just waiting. There's no way I'm gonna get any extra DNA. Finally infected the entire world, and just about 80 million stragglers left. I'm surprised they even have countries to go from. 18, 15, 12, 10. And actually, our daily deaths dropped to 2 million per day, which is interesting. Now it should be about 600k. Well, and it's just gonna slow down from there because one thing people don't realize is this game actually simulates the scenario as if it were real, which is interesting because the daily deaths would actually go lower at the end, mainly because we would have, you know, uncharted access to any medical items we need, ventilators, so on and so forth, which will allow us to survive a bit longer. Do keep in mind that some of these people are actually completely indisposed since, coma and cannot do stuff. Hashtag reasoning. So that's how to win with bacteria on this time brutal, since I cannot do mega brutal unless I buy the thing on the phone. Have videos have done this on mega brutal, but yeah, and it should not really, have any problems regardless of country. As you can see, I missed. I got a 4 star, starting in China, on brutal, and it was a bad playthrough. Like I did not care. And also, yes, that is the way you need to go to get 5 star. You need to get spotted. It's something that's gonna happen. Just embrace it. Yeah, and still waiting on salary day to purchase the game and provide you guys with some cool content with the new the special plagues and whatnot, which is going to be interesting. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and until the next time, stay foxy and much love. Bye bye.